Hello, we are working on our first signature that will go in right here. But I want to address this end first. So I went to my scraps and I found, I had made some original cutting errors, full disclosure, made some original cutting errors. So I'm using that paper so it's not a waste to cover these two, this spine piece and then this layover to the front of the album. So the reverse side was Oz on both of these. Oh, now you know I always do this. I turn it up, turn it over, and I look at it and I go, oh, I have a really nice piece right there. But I can't do that with this, so it's going to remain the same. So this is what I'm going to do. I was going to put, to decorate that, I was going to put the lion in there, but I think I'm going to save him. I can't really put much on here on this piece because of the magnets. You know, if you want to try to be real careful and put in a really small 2 by 3 photo sighting on the error to the left, you'll stay away from these because you need to make sure that you don't have a lot of bulk over the top of those magnets. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this one over. I like that side. And you want to dig, otherwise you have some scraps already that you can cut into unless you want to give up this 12 by 12 sheet. Okay, so I am going to tape this because of this. That's a lot of magnets that I don't want to have to lose or rip out of there if for some reason what I have designed here ends up not working. So far, it seems to be okay. Like I said, a little apprehensive. I'm kind of out of my wheelhouse on this one. So I'm going to bring this up to me. I'm going to roll that tape out of my seam there. Apologize if I was just out of camera view. I'll try and be mindful to stay in. Oops. There we go. I'm going to get around those magnets nice and snug. Okay, so there that piece is. So that then finishes the construction of the album inside and out. Now we're going to get back to the signature for this page. All right, base piece. I will be using the patterns and solids that come with this collection as my base pieces. And then I will use whatever's remainder, I will be using that to help fill in on some of the flaps. So this is going to measure, to start off with, at 8.5 inches across by 8 3/4 in height. Now I will tell you that this being the front left panel, and then we'll have a right back panel, these base pieces will be larger because I'm trying to cover some of the seams that were created when we put on the spine piece. All right, so that is done. Now I want to put our flaps on. Now I am using a decorative die that I have in my stash. Use whatever decorative die you want to use. Use a punch or don't use anything at all. If you choose to use nothing at all, just go ahead and round your corners so there's a little softer edge to it. My finished, I'm going to come out here about 1/8 of an inch because when I'm on my die, I'm losing 1/8 of an inch. So that means that this piece is 6 inches by 8 3/4, and then you're going to score it at 1/2 inch, and then you're going to score it here at 5/8 of an inch. I want that on the top, so we are going to pull this in up to that 1/2 inch score line. This will allow for anything that you choose to stuff inside of it, that it's got room to build. Okay, left side, 1/8 of an inch. So this is also at 6 inches by 8 3/4 with a 1/2 inch score and a 5/8 of an inch score. And we're going to come right up to that 1/2 inch score line. Okay, push this back. Now, on this front panel, you're going to cut a piece that's going to measure 5 1/4 inches across, 6 7/8 in the height, and you'll do a 1/2 inch score, and I am setting a magnet. This is going to center on this front flap, and I've already made my pencil mark on both, so I'll know where my center is. Line that up right there. And then I'm going to set the magnet while I'm here. All right, now the rest of this we will put together once we get the collection paper going. I wanted to get these set. However, I need to think this through because I was so focused on this and lining everything up to this that I didn't think about how I was actually going to keep this closed. So I wonder if I just put one big magnet right there and one here, so then the magnets aren't fighting each other. Where are the basic gray magnets? So that means these are going to go on this way, which is a bummer because I won't be able to use the little adhesive. So I'm going to close this and see where that one magnet lines up that's coming down on this piece here. Okay, it's going to be tight. I could pull it back this way, which means this would need to come in here a little bit so I have more room. Oh, but I can't because I'm using that magnet underneath. All right, I'll work with it. I will get that paper over that. I will make it work because I know what I'm doing here, so I shouldn't have an issue with it being ineffective. All right, so I'm going to fold this over. We got a good connection. Pull that off. Oh, for Pete's sake. Stop. I'm going to have to tape these down. They're not going to stay on here anyway. Okay. Now these should close and separate. Very good. So let's go back to, I've got to be careful here because I've got exposed tape on that. All right, let's play with this down here. We're going to make a pocket. And again, I used my decorative die. And then I matched up my paper. And this is going to come down here. And this is a part of my scraps. And then I went back into my scraps. And I found a yellow strip. And then I'm taking all the chipboard guys and gal. And I'm going to set them so that they're walking along the yellow brick road, or the path to the yellow brick road. And that's going to go down here across the bottom. So let's get this mounted. Oh, gosh darn it. Hold on. Just 2 shakes. This piece was 3 and, I'm going to call it at 3 3/8 because I'm going to lose an 1/8. It's easier to trim any excess off this bottom. So 3 3/8 by your that should have been 8 1/2. 8 1/2. So I think I'm short, but let me check. This should be 8 1/2 across. I'm a hair short, so I'm just going to balance it in between the two pieces. And then this will get glued in. I don't like that. It's showing way too much on this end, but I'll deal with it later. Okay, yellow brick road. I'm just going to put it here across the bottom. And let's put him, I want the Cowardly Lion in the center. So I'll put Dorothy here, and we'll put the Scarecrow down here in this end, and we'll put Mr. Tin Man up here with the rose. These are all your chipboard pieces, the characters. It's just not anything I did. It came to me that way. Goodness. Okay, that's done. Now let's work on this panel right here. This is the piece I chose to use. I love this actually. I love it, and it's out of your patterns and solids from the 12 by 12. And again, I followed the design on my die cut, and this is going to get glued in. Boy, with the weather getting colder, my thumbs really ache from squeezing glue bottles. All right, I gotta put this on the trimmer because something's not right. Much better. And we're going to make a pocket here. This is going to be 1.5 inches by 8 3/4 in your height. And I used some thin tape, my skinny tape, because I want to be able to maximize as much of the pocket as possible. Come right here off the bottom and follow that pattern paper all the way up. And then out of scraps, I chose this blue gingham type pattern. And it's off of the front, the main piece to the collection. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have put that through the die, but it's too late. Okay, Dorothy is going to go right here. Okay. So now you have a pocket here, and based on this piece, you can put in a fairly good size item and it will hold it snug. You can take some smaller pieces and actually put in permanent photos if you wish, and then still have the availability of your tuck here. All right, now we're going to move over to this panel here. So out of the patterns and solids, which is the reverse side of this, I'm using the solid green. I followed my pattern. And it's going to sit in here like this. We're going to make a belly band. We're going to cover it with this beautiful blue piece. And then in the center of the belly band, we're going to put in a photo card. And then I took this cutout out of the 8x8 cutouts. So let's go ahead and get this started. Now with this being an arched, I honestly don't know that it will make a difference if I don't put anything right here. I'll find out once I get it attached. If need be, then I can come in with a little bit, just tack it down. I'm not going to lather glue in there because if I got to take this apart, I would rather lose a little bit of paper on this underside if I ever have to tear it apart. Does that make sense? Come on. I think it's going to be just fine because if there's enough tape that it's pulling it down there, I don't see it lifting or separating. And I just blew it. Ah! Dad, blast me. Okay, so I was going to tuck these ends behind this piece, but now it looks like I'm just going to end up mounting it to the front. So this measures 1.5 inches across. The overall length is going to be 9 3/4 inches, scoring it at 1/2 inch on each end. And I am going to find my middle real quick. So that's going to be 2.5. And then this is going to be 2.5. And if this is 1.5, it's going to be 3/4. And this is 3/4. Okay. Right there on the end. Okay, and then we're going to cover it with this paper, or I am at least. You've got scraps that you can choose to use. And then here, we're going to put that photo. So this is going to measure, excuse me, 3 inches across. It will measure at 8 inches in the length, and then you're going to score it here at 4 inches. So I'm going to put this right here, and I am going to pencil where I want to put my glue. So my glue is going to go in here. Don't do that, Charlie. very good. Okay, this is going to go on the outside. I have got to find me a glue gun. Or I could just stop crafting. That's the other alternative. All right, snuck into the scraps. I'm going to cut up this piece here. I'm going to put the yellow brick road on the bottom. And then blue, this was what I was going to use, was this the lighter side here. There's that, and we still have our tuck. All right, so now let's go to the work the front, and I'm going to start here on this side. Now, if I can remember what it was I was doing. All right, let's see here. Okay. So I'm cutting two pieces, scoring at a 1/2 inch, and they're going to sit in here so that they're approximately even distances, but I need to stay off of this. So it's going to come a little bit more this direction. So this one measures in at 5 inches by 3 3/8, 1/2 inch score. I think I'm going to go back to tape. It doesn't hurt as much. I know, stop bitching. Oops, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Okay, that one's in. And then the other one, I think, are the same measurements. This one is at 4 3/4 by 3 3/4. Yeah, that one's 3 3/4. But I think, what did I do here? They should be about the same, and that one's 5. Okay, well, it will work. Maybe one of the cards is smaller. Okay. And then I have, this must be for the bottom. I went to scraps and I pulled out this blue gingham. It's going to go top and bottom, and then this particular card out of the 12 by 12s will sit here on the top, and this one out of the 12 by 12 will sit here down at the bottom. Now I'm not going to cover them yet because I need to get in here and cover this. And this is what I chose for the inside. So we're going to put some tape on this. And then I'm going to try a closure, a little swing tab closure. I've never successfully done one before, so we'll have to see how I do on this one. I've thought about it a little bit more, but I don't know if I'm doing them right. There's a crafter, his name is Paul Ford. He does a beautiful job with swing tabs, and I'm so envious of his skill, but he has inspired me, so we'll see if I can do it. Okay, let's get this lined up here. Over here to the edge. All right, now under here, you're going to cut 2 photo mats. This one being the larger one is going to go up on top. Honestly, don't know how I did that, but it'll create character. 3 1/4 inches across by 4 1/2 inches, and we're just going to tape that right in there, just like that. Or tape, how about glue? And then this one is going to come in at 4 1/8 by 3 1/4. And then we're going to line this up down here, just in front of those score lines, and it should set right in there. At least I got that measured out right. So now you've got 2 photo mats like so. So I'm using these 2 to cover this. Now I'm just realizing that I did not trim for these 2. So I'll have to trim for these 2 later. I'm not going to do it now, but you'll want to set those. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down. And then I'm going to perform surgery on it. I think I need to get this centered in first. And then, out of the sticker packet, there is this sticker that has the little Tin Man. So I cut, using a circle die, I cut a circle that was approximately 1 inch in diameter, and I've punched a hole, and I put in a brad, and then this is going to drop down about halfway so that this could be the swing that will keep this closed. So I need to line up where I put my earlier pencil mark, and it should work. So now I need to punch this hole right here and I don't punch holes very good. I should probably get my big puncher out, and it's so obnoxious. Okay, I think that's sufficient. Now I'm going to take the brad, push it through, and then when I get the paper trimmed, I'll cover this up. Let's flatten that out. Comes in handy for a lot of things. All right, so now we're going to put this down first. I hope this works. If it does, if it halfway does, I'm going to count it as a success. Oh, it's getting to the point where I can't hardly hold on to this thing. So this should swing up. Is it gonna work? And this will come down here. Oh, look at that. I'm so proud of myself. Okie dokie. And then we've got this over here. And we have these. Okie dokie. So let's now work on this one. This is the piece I chose to cover this right here. And it's a little magnet, so I'm not going to, I'm going to tape it because my thumb can't handle the glue bottle right at the moment. Even though it's a tiny magnet, I'm not so concerned about losing those if I have to get into something, but this is going to be a lot easier on. All right, now, right here on this piece, you're going to put in a photo mat. It is going to measure at 3.5 inches by 5 inches, and it will just sit in here, roughly centered as much as possible. I think I'm going to pull this over just a little bit so that I'm exposing that magnet more, because I still have a layer of paper that's got to go over this. Now, on this, and I did round my corners, so now I'm going to put this piece on. Where'd my big card go for here? Well, for Pete's sake, Charlie. It's this one. So that means I need to cut a piece for this. Do I have pieces in my scraps? No, that's all I have. So as I work through the album, I will be cutting a photo mat to put here. I need a piece that's going to fit, and I don't really want to use this here because it's repeating. So I will come back and get that later. All right, now the next thing we're going to cut real quick, and then we'll be done, are our, oh, I am so bad. I am so bad. We are going to make some pockets. So these are going to measure in the width. You're going to make 2 of them at 8 1/4 inches across. And they're going to measure in at 9 7/8. You're going to score it a half on both those ends. I have mitered these corners to make putting the cards in there a lot easier. And now I've got to remember if I was mounting them to the inside. I'm going to end up having to mount mine to the back side like this because they are a little bit taller than the page for some reason. So that's what I'm going to do. And I need to tape this closed. I'll pull these back and then put that down. No, that's not going to work. Because this is going to mount to the outside. Well, mine are going to, for some reason, mine are going to extend just a little bit over the edge. I need to use tape. I've already scored mine, so I'm not going to re-score to get just a little fraction of an inch. Okay. I totally forgot about this. All right, so I'm going to line it up here across the bottom. And then I'm going to, I'm going to stand up so I can see this. This is, if I line this up here, I'm going to have a bit of a bow. That's not going to work. I really cut this off. I'm off by 1/8 of an inch. All right. That will not do. So I'm going to take this off. And I'm going to score one end of this at 1/8 of an inch shorter. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to end up having to score mine at what a mess. Fast and furious on the repair. Oh, that's better. Okay. Now let's see if this other one's that same issue. So if I bring that here, boy, both of them are off 1/8 of an inch. Okay. So I am going to put tape right here. That's probably how I should have done the first one, but I wasn't anticipating it to be off. All right, then I'm going to bring my corner to my corner. And this should, beautiful. Now I will turn this over and I'm going to apply glue here. So this is doing it this way. And of course I mitered that corner, didn't need to. Doing it this way. I'm off camera. Where these are on the opposite side. Makes it nice and tight. Now we'll get back to where, when I went, uh-oh. All right, you're gonna cut a couple of pieces of cardstock. They're going to measure, one side is gonna measure in at 8.5 inches and the other side is gonna measure in at 8.25 inches. And then I'm going to, I'm right-handed, so I can't even do this with my left hand. It would look terrible. It would be so uncoordinated. It would just be awful. And then out of the patterns and solids, I chose the blue and the yellow striped papers. Blasted. I gotta lift this side before. Okay, I had some brass pieces. So one is a leaf or a floral and the other one's a crown. I'm going to put them in here, but I'm going to need to tape them down. See, now I've got myself flustered. At least I admit it. And I used baker's twine to tie them in, and now I'm going to re-glue that piece. Well, now I'm struggling just to get this back on there. There we go. And then this will slide in here. And then this one, not making the same mistake. That one went together a lot cleaner. And then this is going to go in here. And then we're going to mount this and we'll be done. So our first signature going in will sit like this. Now I'm going to be brave and see if I can't just take all the tape off and then burnish it really, really good. Get those air bubbles out of there. Get that burnish down in there so it will stay in contact. we have it. Okay, that's not working like I thought it would. Okay, there we go. I'll fill in the rest of those as I get more paper cut. So I'll see you on the next one. This one. Bye-bye.